Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with Drink a Beer and Play a Game, and welcome to another episode of the Power Hour.
Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to episode 139. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're recording this on the 22nd, so by the time this comes out, happy Thanksgiving. Hope you all having a good one. Stay safe out there. And to bring it in style, of course you have to have family, you have to have friends. So of course we have a guest tonight. He comes to us from the Jakejames Lugo channel. He is Jakejames Lugo himself. Jakejames, how you doing, man?
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the kind words and stuff, and good to see y'all, good to meet y'all, and hopefully everybody else that gets a kick out of this episode. You know, it's cool to talk with y'all.
Yeah, speaking of that, why don't you do a little plug-in of what you got out there so people know where to find you?
So yeah, I do a lot. So my main YouTube channel is youtube.com/gamerswithgains channel, which is just Jake James Lugo in the search bar as the channel. I do frequent, like, weekly uploads, highly edited, highly produced video reviews, let's plays, unboxings, podcasts. I do a ridiculous amount of content. On top of that, besides YouTube, I'm always on all like other social media, twitter.com/JakeJamesLugo, Instagram.com/JakeJamesLugo. I'm also a freelance writer and a host. I do a lot of different content at a variety of different places, including the Flynn's Arcade Gaming and More website every single weekend. I write about retro games, I write about fighting games, arcade stuff, a lot of different things. I've been in the industry as a content creator slash press media person for going on now 12 years. It'll be 12 years in January that I've been doing a lot of stuff. I've freelanced for places like IGN, Playboy, The Coalition, Switch Player Magazine, Red Bull Gaming, a lot of places. And there's even more beyond that, some of which is coming very soon. But I love talking about games. I love the conversation about games. I love conversing with other people about them, critiquing them, and just having a ball with them overall. So that's basically all I'm about.
So you're way more professional than us when it comes to gaming. We're just two assholes who drink beer and play games.
That's all it is, though. It's like, it's just having fun. We're all the same. It doesn't matter like how much we have in our careers and stuff. We all just love having fun playing video games and drinking beer too. So I can relate.
Yeah. And I said before we got started, I noticed you got the little something something. Now is that a you've had it a few times before and it's just something that stuck with you?
I've had it a few times. I got this one specifically because my sister-in-law and my brother actually got like a big case of it like that, because we get beers, we'll get wine stuff, because I'm a wine guy. Okay. I was originally going to come on here with some red wine, but it was like, you know what, they drink beer, so you know what, team player over here, let me get a nice beer and have it with y'all. And then I was going to go for a Heineken, but then I was like, no, let me have this, let me like mess around with this, because it's pretty good, a little higher on the alcohol content than a Heineken, which I appreciate.
Nice. No, I like it. And yeah, we've had wine people, liquor people. I mean, it don't matter. Drinking with us, exactly. that it's drink what you like, enjoy what you like, just like video games, where you definitely won't see any snobs on this side. Nice. But let me ask you though, for Thanksgiving, do you have a go-to? Are you beer, wine, or liquor throughout the day?
Because I drink everything during Thanksgiving. Like when it's holiday time, like there is no like picky and choosiness. Like there is just, you got to just stick with some and just go with it. Just roll with it. And I just happen to go through the whole entire menu sometimes. Like, if I had to choose, like usually for Thanksgiving, and especially with the holidays, when it comes to alcoholic drinks, I'll have whatever beers around there like that. I'll usually get Merlot for wine sometimes. Sometimes Cabernet Sauvignon if it's around, but like I like Merlots. That's a pretty good thing for me. Yeah. Maybe a Malbec, but really Merlot's the go-to as far as like if it's at Publix or something, then yeah, I'm picking that up. But outside of that, I'll go for non-alcoholic drinks, like especially eggnog. I'll have like eggnog, and I'll have coffee drinks. I like having stuff like that, especially with desserts.
Yeah. Yeah, eggnog is the same as the beer that I've mentioned. I only drink starting Thanksgiving. I do my Mad Elf then. But eggnog, that's like probably after Thanksgiving I'm willing to start having it. And I save it
around
just
that time.
Yeah. Because I'm not one of those people, I don't wait for that all year. I'm not like, oh man, can't wait to have my eggnog. But when I have it, I do enjoy it. Yeah. But it's one of those very seasonal things for me.
Exactly.
But speaking of seasonal, Jim,
yes,
saving my Mad Elf, I already got my 6-pack. Sitting right next to that beautiful 6-pack, though, was, of course, the Troganator. So,
yes.
Nice.
This is another classic double bock beer. And, it's 8.2%, so it is strong. And just like a lot of things from Trogs that are this strong, it sneaks up on you really fast. And it doesn't feel like an 8.2%. And I say this is probably my favorite style of lager because it doesn't get enough love. It's got like thick, malty flavor, some caramel, and it goes down smooth. As you can tell, I'm already almost done this glass. So, yeah, I love this beer. And Chambers, what is it you're drinking with us tonight?
It's actually funny you mentioned Troganator because every time like I'll mention Trogs in like a tweet or put it out on Instagram, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, fucking love Troganator." So I think that's like picking up steam like all around too. Mm-hmm. But I'm actually drinking from the Goose Island Beer Company, the Sophie 2017 Belgian style saison, tart, dry, sparkling ale with spicy white pepper notes and a hint of orange peel and creamy vanilla finish. So 6.5% alcohol, comes in the big fancy boy bottle here. And I actually got this from my neighbor because I got him a couple IPAs when I was out because he helps me out a lot around the house because I'm the opposite of handy. So as a little thank you, I gave him a couple IPAs from out in St. Louis. So he was like, "Hey, I know you like craft beer, so I'm never going to drink this, so here you go." And I got to say, it's pretty damn tasty. So if you like a smooth, like the orange and the vanilla definitely comes through in this. So if you like saisons with a little flavor thrown in there, this is pretty goddamn good. I don't know if you're going to find a 2017 one anymore, but if you see the Sophie around, definitely give it a shot.
Jim, why is it all your best beers seem to be gifts from people?
Because I'm a scumbag. Because I go for cheap and easy, and everyone goes, "Oh, hey, you'll probably like this." And I
He
go, "I
finds
do."
those deals.
Yeah. Like, I remember getting you that Dissident, and you're like, for the longest time, you're like, "Oh, I have this new favorite beer, this Dissident stuff."
You didn't get that for me. I bought that when
I
we were
got
at the
that for
clearance
you.
thing. No, you did not.
You're wrong. Again,
You were
bought
wrong.
it for clearance after the fact.
No, the first time I had it is when I bought it for clearance at there.
Jim, who's
Point
had,
is, you got it. Though.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
That is true.
and Jim, which one of us has had more blackouts in our life?
So that means, Brian, that means I remember the things that I remember better because I cherish them more. See, you take advantage of your memories.
The
That's
mental
bullshit.
gymnastics with this.
I was gonna say that's not how it works. You son of a
That's
bitch.
exactly how it works.
Now, Jake James, I got a question. So,
Yo.
with everything you're doing, producing, editing, do you have time to just sit back and enjoy video games casually anymore? Or is everything kind of like going to your business side and your creator side?
It depends on the day or the week that I'm having like that because
Yeah.
I have to force myself to do that at times. Like, because I think that it's important to play and interact with games or whatever that you love, outside of all the work. Like, I had that a while back where I sat down and just played through Spider-Man on PS4 and I enjoyed the hell out of that game. Wasn't playing it for videos, wasn't playing it for review, writing, none of that. And I just, for like a good week, just played through that game and I had so much fun. So there are moments like that. There'll be some games that I end up buying or end up getting somehow where I'll just play it like that as opposed to just doing it for content because content's important and that's got to be something that's frequent. It's always got to be something that you're constantly engaging with. But if you're not playing stuff and you're just like thinking about that constantly all the time, you're going to lose the passion that you have for whatever it is that you're engaging with. And personally, for me, I don't want that to happen because I love games. Again, games been part of my entire life. For these like 33 years I've been on this earth. So I'd rather not lose out on that.
Nice. Now, what about this past week? Is there anything you've been dabbling in or playing that?
I've been playing a lot. I play more than the average person for various different reasons, but the biggest ones that I could say that I've been playing for review stuff, I'm playing Knights of the Old Republic on Nintendo Switch. That's the big one. I've been waiting on that for a long time, and that's a meaty game that's going to take me a while. The original plan was try to finish that by this week to try to get it out before Thanksgiving. I was like, that's not going to happen. You got to work on the games time because KOTOR is a very, very meaty game. The other one that I just got recently, I did a video about it today, Kirby Star Allies on Nintendo Switch, because I saw it on a half-off deal over at GameStop, and that was pretty dope, so pick that up. I've also been messing around a little bit with some of the games on Games Pass for PC, because I finally just got into that. There was a deal that you pay $1, you get it for a couple months. And,
I
I've
got
just
on
been
that
messing with
deal
some
as well,
games. Yeah, it's just, a bunch of games to choose from, like including Cyber Shadow, which I finally sat down for the first time and played, and that's pretty dope. It's a really, really good retro style game. Some Killer Instinct, because Killer Instinct, it's fun, especially if you're in the Xbox ecosystem. That's your fighting game of choice. And a couple others here and there, but I've been bouncing around from a lot of games. I mean, outside of that, I'll play Warzone with friends, obviously Call of Duty, Granted, Vanguard's out right now, but I tried the trial for Vanguard and I wasn't feeling it. So I was like, I'll just stick with Warzone. I've already had my fill of Call of Duty. I think I got that covered. And then obviously Overwatch whenever I can. I'll play Overwatch with friends, we'll team up online on PSN or something.
Nice. Yeah, so it's funny. We both did Vanguard day it was released, and I said this has been one of the more fun just multiplayer, because like everyone else, I think I converted to Warzone, that basically the most. Whereas with the last Cold War, I think I only played multiplayer for a week tops, and then I
Yeah,
was
same.
kind of done with it. Whereas Vanguard, I can still go back and still. There's something that is a little. On one hand, it feels a little less twitchy, but I think the player base has changed so much where everyone's goddamn bunny hopping around so much more than
Yeah.
like I would prefer in a Call of Duty game.
Also, keep in mind it's World War II because there's a lot of
Exactly.
those people like that on the more modern style
Yep.
Call of Duty games that are into the war zone, that are into modern warfare and stuff like that. Like, I think there's a certain type of fan, especially if you're Call of Duty, that has that like taste for World War II style games because Call of Duty's bread and butter was World War II.
Yep.
That's how really that series was like got started before everything changed with Call of Duty 4.
Yeah. No, for sure. But yeah, no, I was curious because like I said, I saw your video trying out Vanguard. So do you think you ever gonna go back to the multiplayer, or are you just gonna wait till the new
Honestly,
map?
no, because I think that when I get my Call of Duty fix, I get it from Warzone now because I do play it so much.
Yeah.
And I think that I'll every once in a while when I can, I'll go back to like Modern Warfare or Cold War, whatever as a group that we're in the mood for, like that. But on my own, like if I'm really gonna go look for Call of Duty Vanguard multiplayer, not really. I feel like
Gotcha.
if I want that quick fix, I'm gonna go to Warzone. It's just easier to deal with, and there's more people playing it too.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Definitely seems like everyone like abandons with every release, like the multiplayer just quicker and quicker, and then they're just like, all right, I'm going back to Warzone.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, these days.
Yeah. Well, shit. I converted all my friends once PUBG really introduced what I would consider the battle royale style, and then obviously Fortnite and everything else kicked off. But it seems like that is the new FPS multiplayers, like the way everyone wants to play is the battle royale style, and it doesn't seem like it's
changing though. It might be changing though because I mean, granted, Halo Infinite just came out, with its multiplayer stuff, and that might shift things a little bit because people have been wanting that style of multiplayer shooter like that. But Warzone is just or Call of Duty is just so big,
Yeah.
with such a rabid fan base.
Oh yeah, it's much more. Yeah, I think Halo's an interesting case where you're gonna have the people who've been dying for another good Halo and that
heads.
experience. I don't know how much of you know what it is. Unfortunately, well, fortunately or unfortunately, I think right now any new gamers are only getting hyped by they'll see like highlight clips on Instagram, on TikTok or whatever,
TikTok, yeah.
and then we'll say, oh, okay, maybe that will be a game I try. But I think you're going to realize really quickly, Halo, to me, was never super accessible to new players. Like, especially if you're getting
Yeah,
shit on
I can agree with that.
immediately. So it's
You
going to
got to
be...
have some competence at FPSs in order to really kind of get into Halo. Like
Yeah.
it's Call of Duty is like so twitchy and so fast,
Yeah.
and it's like so like in your face like that. And Halo, I think that Halo did good for making like a modern day like shooter, like how it feels.
Yeah.
And then Call of Duty just took it to like the far extreme for people that are just not FPS players or not like big gamers in general.
Yeah. No, but the Halo looks pretty interesting. I mean, Jim, you are obviously... Of our friends, you're probably the biggest Halo nut. I mean, does that seem like something you're going to dip your toes back into?
I wish I had a Series X so I could start playing it because it looks.
I'd be playing it right now, yeah, if I did.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's actually funny when you see people talk about it. They're like, jumping around in Halo, and I dumped 2 rounds of bullets and didn't kill the guy. So yeah, it's a Halo game. I was like, shit, bring me back.
So tell me, you should have picked up the BR instead of picking up whatever other weapon you were thinking of.
I was going to say, Jim and his...
It's all about this spray and pray and then hit him in the face with your elbow. That's all you
sprays,
need.
triple shot, hit.
That's right. That's how a real man does it.
Now, what about you, Chambers? What you been playing this past
Actually,
week?
dude, I haven't had time for shit lately. Like, it's just been a lot of getting some more footage for reviews we have coming out.
Yeah.
So I went back to Alien Trilogy using your little tip. If you ever play Alien Trilogy on the PS1, do not do it on the PS3 because you won't be able to see shit. So
There's a lot of games that are like that are PS1 games that have that same problem.
So is it just an Because Jim said he thought it was an emulation issue. Is that what it is?
I think so, if I'm not mistaken, because I know another game that gave me that similar problem was Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Because Mortal Kombat Trilogy is just notorious for having issues like that. And I'm pretty sure there's other ones I'm just not thinking of at the moment. There's like a list out there I know people could look online like for specific PS1 games that have almost the exact same problem.
See, that I wish I knew that. I'm such a stubborn asshole. Like, I started the game and I was like, oh, wow, this shit's really moody. It's really dark. Like, I'm having trouble seeing anything. And then I realized, like, okay, I'm getting in some levels where literally it's a guessing game. If I see a hint of light, I was trying to move through like the ducts and shit, and I
I
was like,
know on the console itself, there's a thing that you could go to in the menu to adjust stuff, like for the display, to
I
change the
did
brightness.
that.
Not the
Yep.
game itself, but the actual PlayStation 3 itself, to mess around with it. But that doesn't always help. That doesn't really do much.
Didn't do shit. I like turn up the brightness on my TV. I'm like going crazy. I'm like, what the fuck? I put it in my PS2, and I was like, looks like a completely different game. So yeah, that was incredibly frustrating. But Jim, so now that you got to test it out on PS2 with actual light,
Well, I used my actual PS1, and it was still
okay.
pretty dark. Like, it wasn't as dark, but it was still dark. Like, I turned the brightness up, like, on the HD Retrovision cables, turned it up on my TV, and it was still better than the PS3, but it wasn't, like, that much better. So I don't know if the PS2, like,
try the
displays it
PS2.
differently.
Yeah, maybe it does. I mean, I think I showed you the footage. It to me
Yeah,
that
no, yours
looked
looked
much
way
better. Yeah.
Yours looked way brighter than anything that I was getting to work. So I'll try that as one last ditch, but it was still a little better. But yeah, then I also started dicking around with the pinball tables on Pinball FX3 for the Alien games, and I was like, man, these are great.
Okay, so you know me. I'm not a fan of. I what was that game that you talked about so much and then I played and beat your score within a week?
Oh, Demon's Tilt.
Yeah, that was literally probably the only pinball game I played before like these tables, and I played the Alien ones and I was like, they look super cool. The Aliens table was a lot of fun. I played the Alien Isolation. I wasn't as big a fan of that, but I was like, oh, these are actually like these are really cool. I wonder if most pinball games. And I played some other like generic tables. I was like, no, this is just a lot more fun.
Yeah, I think the freebies that come with Pinball FX aren't going to be that crazy. So
Yeah.
I think they make it so you got to pay to actually get something cool out of it.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, this week, similar to you, I'm trying to finish off Alien Colonial Marines, which it is what it is.
That's a slog.
Yeah, it's as I said.
Did
to
your
Jim,
opinion change, Brian? Because at first you're like, I don't see why people hate it so much. And now that
so I understand now. Like I decided, let me do some research. Why do people hate it so much? And then understanding the backstory of like what it was supposed to be, what it turned out. I did notice some of the things. Like I do realize now, like how I'd say stupid the enemy AI is, especially in most Alien
Did you
games.
see the thing with the mods on that on PC? There's a mod
there?
that fixes it. It completely revamps the entire AI.
Oh,
of that
nice.
game.
No,
It's
I
insane.
have.
It's hilarious. Like it's one little change to code on like a text document.
You know what? I saw a video talking about that, and they're like, yeah,
it like totally changes that game.
one line of code, which is insane. But I said that game, like putting myself back, like okay, it might not have looked like the trailers. Still, so far, like I think it gets the feel down of Aliens, and it was the best FPS Aliens, debatably. But the problem is like it's so goddamn repetitive, and there's a lot of missions that take way too long. It's not great, but I think like a lot of games that get overhyped as like worst games ever. I wouldn't put it in that category. It's just not that great. But I spent $5 at a Goodwill with a still wrapped copy, so I can't really complain.
Nice.
Yeah,
it always softens the blow.
yeah, I played that, and I've gotten really hardcore back into as my casual playing, back into my Total Warhammer 2 game. Since Warhammer 3 is going to be coming out in February, so I'm getting reamped up, and I always loved that game. So yeah, I'm just playing the shit out of that. Yeah. But yeah, no.
Solid picks.
Yeah, like I said, this week is going to be probably late, I think, with the holiday coming up. But I will say, by the time you're watching this video, you will have already seen our Alien 3 on the NES review. Interestingly enough, you just did a review for the Genesis Alien 3.
Yep,
We
exactly. I
saw
was about
that,
to say.
and Jim and I were talking about that as we were
I'll tell you right
recording.
now, it's the best version of that game.
You think
it's
so?
the best version of all the versions of that game, and it's down to one specific thing: the music. Music, hands down. That Genesis sound chip sounds so good.
Think so. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spoil our thoughts on it. I can say we definitely differ on best version, but we'll leave surprise, I guess. We only decided to cover NES, Super NES, and Genesis, even though NES
There's a billion versions.
There's a lot more like that are like inconsequential, like
Yeah.
Game Gear or Game Boy, whatever.
The NES really, we know it's just a port of the Genesis version. But yeah, it's Genesis and Super NES, I can't believe how different they were, like playing through them. But yeah, so like
I
I
have to
said,
say, the music is one of the best parts of that game on the Genesis. So definitely agree
it's
with you
just
there.
the sound of it. It just there's a certain thing with the Genesis sound chip that just certain types of tracks just sound better than anything else for the different versions of those games. Like you could look at other games like WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game. Like stuff like that, like you could see the differences in them just with the sound. It makes all different. Mortal Kombat 2 is another one that it just sounds better on the Genesis, even though arguably technically it's better on the
WrestleMania,
Super
you didn't even
Nintendo.
have music. Sorry to cut you off real quick, but WrestleMania didn't even have music on the other versions. That was the only one with music during the match.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
I said Jim and I we had the same comment for both NES and Sega Genesis with Alien 3 though is that music, it's so catchy and poppy, it does not sound like it belongs in an
It
Alien
sounds like
game.
80s music. Like it reminds
really
me of
does.
the late 80s to early 90s. Like straight up, like I think it's stage 4 where you're actually in like some sort of like some sort of like white like background like facility and stuff. That track specifically reminds me of like the late 80s into the early 90s. Like
Yeah.
it's just got that vibe to it on the Genesis. So if anybody listens to this now listens to that like on YouTube, you'll instantly get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounded like it should be in another side-scrolling beat-em up on the Genesis, not an Alien 3 game.
Yeah.
Like I said, the tone was just off. But like I said, we will. You've seen our review by this point of Alien 3 on the NES, so you will see our upcoming review of Alien 3 on Genesis next. So, like I said, it is good that you just did it.
And speaking of things to upcome, we might be having a little Black Friday sale on the website. So if we
Absolutely.
can make that work. So
Yeah.
head on over to DrinkABeerandPlayAGame.com. Check out the merch. Might be some deals there.
And with our release of our new shirt with the new logo from our buddy Optic Decay, thank you once again. His links are below as well. Yeah, you're going to see huge cuts in our shirt. Great time to get them. Help support us. We truly appreciate it, guys. But speaking
deals.
of supporting us, Chambers, what questions do we have from our awesome patrons this week?
All right, bro. I'll give you that transition. I'll give you that one. Son of a bitch. Patreon.com/DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, where for as little as $2 a month, you can ask a question that we'll answer on each and every single one of these Power Hour podcasts. First up, from G to the next level. Hey guys, I've been on a bit of an Atari kick lately, and I might be getting a Atari 5200 soon. But we all know how faulty that controller is. Question for you is, what are some of your least favorite controllers ever? Sorry for the bit of absence, but been enjoying the podcast. Cheers. I'll let it go,
I
G.
have a
With
couple.
Mr. Full-Time Content Creator, I think I can let it go. But no, thank you, bud.
So, Jake James, you're the guest, so we'll let you go first.
This one might rub people a little bit the wrong way, but I'll tell you right now, and it's specifically because of the time when I played this back then, the Dreamcast controller. I think it was annoying back in the day, and it has to do with the wire placement. Because just the little thing that you needed to do in order to put the wire like on the opposite side, like just by design, it's just an annoying controller. Even though it has like elements of like more modern controllers, like with the button layout, obviously with the VMU and all that other stuff, but just with specifically that cable, of where it is, that's what made that controller annoying to mess with.
Nice.
Took my answer, you bitch.
I was going to say, that's Jim's standard shit on controller.
It's understandably so though. Like it's a console with great games, like and a lot of like different stuff, especially of its time. And the controller itself, without the stupid cable thing, is not that bad. It's like very similar to what we got later on with like the Duke for the Xbox.
Oh, yeah.
But still, it's just the stupid cable placement. Like whoever designed that controller clearly wasn't thinking about that stuff.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
Jim, are you sticking with Dreamcast now?
Oh, no, I got it back up. I'm going to go with the Sega Master System controller. Because that is one of
That's a good pick.
That's one of the worst D-pads you'll ever deal with in your
Yes.
life.
That's
It
facts.
is a mushy sack of shit, and God forbid you have the Player 2 controller where the cord comes out from the side, most inconveniently. So, yeah. Sega really only had like 2 good controllers. What can I say?
And it certainly wasn't
I'm a
their
Sega boy.
original. And their original Genesis controller was dog shit, because most of the games you needed to get the 6-button anyway.
You need to get the
dirty
6 one. Yeah.
whore
The
mouth.
6 one was the
Yeah.
go-to.
Yeah.
The 6 button's better, but the 3 button's comfortable. God damn it.
I mean, the 3-button was fun, but it became like obsolete, like with certain games. Like you can't play Street Fighter with that. You can't play
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat with that. Like,
It was obsolete
I mean, you
very
could play
fast.
Ghouls and Ghosts. You could play
Yeah.
Sonic. You
Yeah,
could probably
this-
play like any basic game that just needs like 2 buttons. But then at some point, like at like 91, 90, or, yeah, like 91, 92, all the games required you to have more buttons.
Yeah. Yep.
They were not future-proofing themselves, that's for sure.
Yeah. Jim, take a wild stab in the dark at what
Well,
my
Brian, I
answer's
wonder
gonna-
what the hell you're going to say. One you've never mentioned before, I'm sure.
It's the N64. Like I said, same way, Jake
Yeah, I
James,
can
as you
understand
said. So I had N64, I had Dreamcast. It's funny, you and Jim have both mentioned a wire, and I played a shit ton of Dreamcast. Maybe I sat too close. Like I can honestly not remember like thinking of it. Like
You
as
never
an
actually
issue.
moved the wire. It's a little crevice that it has. Like you never had to do that.
No,
Like, every time I
no.
pick it up, I always have to do that.
I probably though was always like the kid that sat too close to the TV anyway. So like I was never like pulled all the way back playing those old consoles. You know, like you said, I was so like invested. Like, oh my god, these games, like blah 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 blah, and I loved the button layout is what really did it for me. And like you said, it felt like what modern consoles became. Whereas with the N64, even back then, it's not, as Jim likes
That's
to
just
try
a
to
weird
defend.
controller.
It's a stupidest controller, and coming from the PlayStation to that, where, like, you know, I was a Super Nintendo kid, PlayStation to that, and I was like, what the fuck is, like, why has this got this dick? Like, what are these C buttons?
You know, that's the one console with that one controller that isn't so easily emulated now these days. Like you won't get a quote unquote authentic experience playing N64 games now these days because of that. Because now when like even with like the retro 64 controllers, they're more built like modern controllers are in that sense, you know, where it has like almost like a GameCube layout as opposed to having like, you know, the three prongs and that you could actually use, which is a little bit more authentic to that. It's one of those things that nobody really wanted to try to replicate that other than just making an actual N64 controller
Yeah.
again.
It's still like undoubtedly the most awkward controller out there. The C buttons I've always thought were absolute dog shit when you had to use them. Yeah, the analog stick was okay, but you know it was completely obliterated as soon as PS2 came out and those sticks came out. Like it's not even a question. So yeah, it's just the worst controller for a system that I played. You know, like Master
It's
System.
definitely the weirdest.
Yeah. I don't disagree with Jim. Master System wasn't a good controller, but at least here in the U.S., not as many of us played that. So
True.
Well, yeah, no one had it. Fuck.
so it's kind of like it's like kicking on some shit that you never even did.
So wait a second. If that's the case, right? Like, if you can say that about the Master System, can't you say that also about the PC Engine? Because those controls are
Yeah,
kind
the
of
same
similar.
thing. Yeah, the
Yeah.
TurboGrafx controller dog shit.
Yeah.
What?
Dog.
How
Jim,
I
just
like the turbo
because-
controller.
That's because now you've decided to dump too much money. It's like your stocks. You're trying to defend shit stocks you have. You're like,
No, Brian, I will not
these are
defend my
winners.
stocks. My stocks are all terrible.
Yo, speaking of which, you know what was a weird controller? The Jaguar. It's our Jaguar controller.
And
never
I've
gotten
never
to use
played
one.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another weird one.
And that's, I mean, there's a whole shit ton of like complete weird, like ColecoVision. That's a
Yeah.
weird, like all.
At least
all
you can
those
forgive
weird
that
ones.
because that was before, like, you know, people kind of knew what
Yeah.
they were
Yeah,
doing.
that's like really old school. Like,
Yeah,
that's like when they were just trying to figure out what a game was.
yeah, yeah, but no, like I said, I think it will always go down for me. N64, it is just the worst,
Now, Brian,
weirdest, worst.
question for you.
Yeah,
Were you a console on the floor kind of guy?
console on the floor. Not always. If
Okay,
we,
because I'm trying to see with the cord with the Dreamcast. Because if you're a floor guy, you probably didn't notice it.
Yeah.
no,
That makes sense.
I was always, but see, like, you know, my room growing up, I would have my TV either at the end of my bed or something. So I would sit on the edge of my bed and be looking at my TV. So I had the
But
console.
you never had a console like on a table though. Like I could understand like people like in one of my old houses, like when I had the Genesis and the N64, sometimes we put the console on a table, like a little bit further away from the TV, and then play it like that where it's closer to you, or have it on the floor where you're a little bit like, you know, sitting on the ground and just playing, looking up at the TV most of
Yeah.
the time. At least that's how I saw it, you know, growing up like that.
At my buddy's house, we always did console on the floor. But at my room, I would like, I think I used to sit my old TV like on top of my dresser or whatever, and I would have the console right next to it. But the cord would literally reach me right to my bed. So I was never, even today, like I have a 55-inch for gaming, and my view from it, I'm never that far back. Like I just don't sit that far back anyway. So yeah, that wire thing, I look at it now and I'm like, yeah, that was really stupid. But it never even crossed my mind back in the day.
You got lucky,
Yeah.
honestly, because every time, even now, like every time I pick it up, like
You're
if
like,
I'm like
son
looking
of
at
a
Dreamcast
bitch.
stuff, I always instinctively
Yep.
just do that. Like it's like bad habit.
No, but gee, that's a great question there. So thank you, bud.
Yep. Next up from Michael Soto. Let's make it a beer question this week. Which is better, hard apple cider or an apple ale?
Ooh. I don't know. I would have to really like compare, like actually have like both like right next to each other. Really think about this one. Like both.
I don't know if I've had too many apple ales, to be honest with you.
I've had a lot of both, and I say cider is better because it tastes less processed. Like cider is just the real thing, whereas the ale, it's like you're just doing a beer and adding apple flavor. As opposed to cider, apple is what you're making it out of. So it's a more pure form of what you're drinking. It's the same as like if you like legit apple cider or apple juice. They both have their different. I don't drink either one except for maybe once a year I'll get some cider. If you want a more authentic actual thing, you go with the hard cider. I never am in the mood for, like, if I'm in the mood for a any apple flavor in my alcohol, then I am going hard cider. Like, I don't need my beer to have an apple flavor to it. Like, that seems counterintuitive to me. So, yeah, I go hard ciders all day, and there are plenty of delicious hard ciders out there. So, yeah, I go that way.
Yeah, just because I've had way more of them, I'll go with cider too. I've never had an hard cider that I've like not enjoyed. Like you can have some and you're just like, this is kind of basic, but it's still good.
Still fine, yeah.
Yeah, it's still sweet, still goes down smooth, and it's still always at least 5 to 6%. So
yeah, the
does
problem with
job.
the ale is it feels a little light and a little overcarbonated, so, which is not what you really want with an apple flavor.
like fizzy. You don't want it to be fizzy.
Exactly.
Like it's not a Coke.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an odd concept. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but okay.
Here's a question for you then. What,
Yeah.
what do you think is like usually the go-to snacks to have with it? Because obviously like I'll have like salty stuff like chips and dip, like guac sometimes. That's usually pretty good. I also have every once in a while my family will make like a mango dip to have with stuff like that. That's like really, really good.
Yeah, like when you're having a cider, see, cider is a weird one because you can adapt that to almost any weather. Like, I generally think of ciders more fall because I'm thinking of like other apple cider donuts and shit like that. But like my wife, that's the really only thing she's willing to drink. And I'll tell you, on some like hot summer nights, like a really cold cider can be kind of like, as Jim would say, refreshing.
yes, it is.
But I would not put any barbecue food. Going back to your question, you don't do barbecue. You'd leave that to light lagers or IPAs. So yeah, I would say stick to like more snack foods and maybe something a little bit more on the sweet side, but not overly sweet because you're already getting the apple sweetness. So yeah, like pretzels are always an easy go-to. Like you said, some dips, but if you get something with a little too much spice or whatever, it's gonna throw it off. So yeah, just keep it simple. Like do a beer cheese with your pretzels.
Yeah, I was just gonna say cheese.
Yeah,
Big
exactly.
idea.
Jim's like, just eat pizza.
No, I was actually gonna say what do you call it because like when I had the most amount of cider ever was it's a pub that's not around anymore. We call it the Great American by us, and they had this big fucking honkin' spinach dip that came in a bread bowl, and like they would always have strongbow deals, and it would be like maybe $2 for like fucking 24 ounces or something like that, like something ridiculously cheap. So I would just be loading up on that all night with a big honkin' bowl and scarfing down 5,000 calories at once. But oh god, was it good!
Yep, those were the days.
Back when you can get away with it.
Great question, though. Thank you, bud.
Yep. Next up from Leo. Are there any gaming content creators from throughout the years that have stopped making videos that you still wish were around? Oh boy.
Well, still wish you were around. That's a little different.
Yeah,
I was thinking because like there's been a couple that some of which have like gone away and come back that I've loved. Some that were actually my biggest inspirations that are still kind of around, and a lot of people don't like them. Even though they were still like one of the bigger ones back then. The one that comes to mind, even though he's still around and stuff, was DSP that inspired me to get on YouTube at first. And it's ironic and weird to say
Before it
that
became a
because
meme?
because of how things have turned out. But like he was one of the first content creators that I watched that actually showed me it's like, okay, it could be simple how you approach making content about games, even if it's just putting a camera in front of your TV. Like that. But then the ones that really show me like what you could do is like Angry Joe, who's still around, Maximilian Dude, who's still around. Like there's a lot of interesting ones. There isn't really ones that I used to watch that have just gone away, just not done anything.
Mine's probably easy because surprisingly enough, I never watched that many gaming creators. Like I'll catch some here and there, and some of the bigger ones I still do watch today. The only one I can think of that really fell off, and I guess it's more internal team members fell off from what I liked, was the old Screw Attack videos. And especially I liked a lot of their top tens. Like those were I'm an easy, like, hey, you make a funny list or good list that I'm kind of all in. And once what's his name? I guess it was Stuttering Craig kind of
Stuttering
left.
Craig, he was the main guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when it like fell off, and now I know they have I think they still have a Screw Attack, but I think it's all just Death Battle at this point. But yeah, that like I did miss some of those old videos. Like I enjoyed watching those. So I don't. Once again, if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure he doesn't do videos like that anymore. But that was
He does
probably
a
the only
podcast
one.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you?
And actually,
Gamers?
funny you mentioned Screw Attack, because when he started the page, he did it with Handsome Tom, and then they had a pretty bad falling out, and he started his own thing called the Game Heroes, which only lasted like 2 years or so, but I enjoyed what they did. The most obvious one I think is probably Classic Game Room. Like he was like,
yeah, damn. Now that you mention it, I saw his thing like maybe a couple weeks ago because just like randomly like browsing on YouTube.
yeah, I mean, he was huge, man. He was a big inspiration for a ton of people, and he was fucking prolific. Like he used to put out 3 to 4 videos a week at his like peak. But he always took the changes to the algorithm, and like he was a guy who couldn't really change with the times, and he couldn't take like people's interest shifting. Like he took it a little too to heart. So he made some mistakes along the way, but I still miss him just because like I loved his style before, and eventually he kind of became a little too much with his in jokes with his own page. But I mean, a lot of us in the retro scene, like we all grew up with Classic Game Room, so yeah, it kind of sucks that he just basically noped out. And I guess last up would probably be like LJN Defender, because I guess sometime randomly last year he was just like, oh, I'm done. And then he just like stopped doing stuff. So he was getting some decent success with his innocent until proven guilty shtick, but I think he burned out on that, and then he just kind of just stopped and then deleted all social media. So
There's a couple that are like that. Like one that comes to mind that actually was big, like especially like on E3 stage type of big, Tobuscus. I actually interviewed Tobuscus at one point. His people reached out to me when I was with my former website to actually talk to him about like what he was doing. I think it was like sometime after the Annoying Orange or whatever, but that's another dude that like was big for a while and then just fell off. Just like didn't do anything. He had like million plus something channels, like multiple of them.
yeah, no, he was a force for a while, and then
Huge.
you just never hear anything about it anymore.
I think though it's like we said at the beginning, like all these things technically probably have a shelf life, and I think I could see where it would get easy to get burnt out once you dedicate it and that's all you do. And I think we've talked before. There's some content creators who are still doing stuff today. It just doesn't seem like their heart is still in it like it used to be, and now that it is their job, you can notice a different feel in the videos. And
True.
Adapt
or die.
Yeah,
That's the way it is. That's the business of YouTube.
Yeah. I think that's the appeal, though. We'll probably hit it up later. Content creation nowadays, anyway. Like, I'm not using the term easier lightly. I'm saying doing streaming takes less than the editing.
Smaller barrier of entry. That's what
exactly.
You mean.
Yeah.
That's
So
really it's like there's more people that are able to do it.
You're able to do it, and you could even do it more consistently, because if you stream, say, 5 days a week, if you have 1 or 2 off days a week, like, it's fine. But like whereas when you put all your eggs in a basket editing a video and release it, that's it. Like that's your product until you get the next one out. Whereas Twitch, it's like ongoing. It's like a baseball season versus a football season. You only got 6.
And keep in mind, you also have to throw other platforms in there too, because TikTok is now a thing now, especially for gaming content creators, where that's become a legit like source of places like you could get real big and then transfer that over to other platforms like Twitch, like YouTube, wherever else. Even Facebook gaming, you could even throw in there to an extent. But like, there's multiple avenues, there's multiple tools for creators to use, and then again, cross-pollinate between them.
Yeah, and nowadays, the long form, I feel like edit is not completely dying off, but because of things like TikTok and everything, like you want that highlight clip. You want to be able to show like, hey, this is this. And then, if you can transfer it over to something else, that's great. Like I said, it's just a different medium now. So,
yeah, it seems like anything that gets big, it's either super short or long form video essays that are like super high produced.
Yeah.
There's like no in between anymore.
Yeah. But no, Like I said, that's another really good questions this week. So no, great job, Leo.
Yep. Next up, from Phony Montana. Game collecting is cool, but it can become expensive and requires a lot of storage space. I have an EverDrive for my Genesis and N64, and it's honestly a game changer. What are your thoughts on EverDrives? I think they're awesome. Like, I can't.
Yeah, that's it. There you go.
I mean,
I need to get some and stop doing this goddamn collecting that I'm doing. Jesus.
yeah, it's the most practical in between of getting a PC that wants to run games or, yeah, hardcore collecting, especially right now, like with all the stupid WADA shit and everything else that's going on. It's not viable for most people that want to game or like do whatever. The Evercade is, to me, the perfect thing for someone like me who actually just cares about playing the game and not just having a display case. Like, that's what I care about the most, is playing the game. So
You know what's funny about that? Like, the other thing you could throw in there too is the Raspberry Pis. You know, because I have a friend of mine that works at Flynn's. He runs Flynn's, and he builds Raspberry Pi machines, you know, for arcade games and cabinets and stuff like that. And there's an appeal to being able to have access to, like, you know, a lot of older games like that. I think where a real big problem comes with collecting is that people get caught up in the fantasy of it. There's a lot of, like, you know, stuff that is really put out there on social media, you know, especially with some of the bigger, larger creators, or collectors, I should say, that have like huge, crazy, like 1 in a million type of collections, like having a whole wall of NES games or like Genesis games. There's a cool appeal to that. It's just that everybody gets caught up on that, the end result, as opposed to everything else that happens beforehand. Not just the money that's spent, but also everything else that comes along with it, like finding those games, you know, talking to different people, building relationships, you know, to find some of the more rare gems and stuff. There's all these other things that get caught up with it. And I think that even personally for me, I ran into like that hard lesson where at one point I had a Dreamcast and I had like a bunch of games and stuff. And I figured that getting something like that would be cool for my collection because it would give me a little bit more legitimacy as a gamer, as someone that has exposure to different consoles. But then when I looked at it, it's like, this thing is just kind of sitting here. This thing is just kind of there. And like, I have a couple games for it and it's awesome, but I didn't grow up with the Dreamcast like that. You know, it wasn't an appeal for me. Like, again, it's my own individual thing, but I'm pretty sure other people have probably felt something similar with like maybe Super Nintendo, maybe NES, maybe Jaguar games, maybe N64, like in some way where it's like you take a moment, you look at this and it's like, this is just kind of here. It's like a collecting dust prop. Like, there's no reason for that. So it's a very hard thing to face sometimes because at that point you're only collecting for clout as opposed to collecting for enjoyment.
yeah, yeah. I think to also expand upon that, like the idea of, and I'll be generic, but like most people, I feel like get the thrill of the hunt. Going out, trying to find something, even if you don't know what you're looking for and you find something, like going to Goodwills, going to garage sales, yard sales, and finding something, there's a dopamine dump there that when you find like a deal, like you're like, holy shit, like this is that.
Oh, when people look at your collection, they're like, wow, you have a dope collection. Like, you have an amazing collection of stuff. But there's part of that too.
But then I think to what you said, I think with some of the bigger YouTubers, and like I said, I'm not naming names, but you can tell like by their thumbnails, if their thumbnail is just them standing in front of a stack of video games, are you just doing that for the pick? Like, you're not playing all those games. And
it's like the guy standing in front of a Lamborghini all the time in like every single video.
Yeah.
Or like every like ad that you see is like a guy that has like a pool and he's like bragging about how he got all this stuff. Like, people love that fantasy.
yeah, and it is a clout thing. It is like call it whatever you want, but I've always been against, like, I've now gone to exclusively, unless it's a new game I'm actively going to play, I'm only collecting horror games. Like, that's my niche. That's the thing I enjoy the most. Whereas before, if Goodwill had a game and it was a price that wasn't crazy, I didn't care. Like, I got fucking Anticipation for NES. Like, I'm not going to play that shit. But
Hey, I have that too.
exactly, because you probably got it for $1 too, like me. And you're like, well,
basically.
it's just a game. I can just add it to the like, you know, it's like stupid shit like that where I was like, I know I'm not going to play these games. And Jim and I are not the type where we're going to turn around and try to resell it for profit enough that it makes sense to try to go into that business, because that's its own hustle. And we ain't got time like that. So, yeah, Evercades, Pies, all these devices, that's like when I got my Retron 5, that was so ideal for me to like have one system, because same deal. I don't hook all my systems up because that would be a fucking nightmare. I only have the main ones I'm always playing. So Retron could like handle, oh, I got rid of 4 or 5 consoles right now. So
Makes space.
yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get like the mode for like, I want a Saturn, but the last thing I need is another goddamn console to collect for. So give me a Saturn, and I'll buy a mode and pop that in there, and just dump some ROMs in there, and then there you go. I'm playing on real hardware. Fine, good.
You know what also is part of that too that I think also should get thrown into the conversation? A lot of these adapters for different consoles, like obviously like the Eon Gaming ones for like the GameCube, for the N64 and stuff. I
Yeah.
think that also adds on to it. There adds on like another renewed interest or appeal to getting some of these older consoles. Like granted, obviously collecting, like it's going to take up space and stuff, but then the idea of like, oh, okay, I could show my kids, you know, my N64 games, you know, I could play it on a modern TV because it could enable it to connect via HDMI and stuff like that. There's part of that. And then there's also the fact is like, okay, I could just have that renewed interest into playing certain things here and there, like through this type of tech.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, in a sick way, that's part of the fun for me, man. Like, I've got a retro tinks and I've got HD Retrovision cables, like, trying to dick around, get the best signal I can to display on modern TVs and all that stuff. Like, I have an old CRT I can just plug into, too, but I just love, like, playing around with all that stuff. Or a game that just, like, as dumb as it sounds, like having a game that refuses to work and then cleaning it enough and, like, taking care of it to the fact that it can get to work again. It's just like, I did it, that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And for content creators too, it's also a big thing because obviously we have to work with more modern stuff in order to capture it on an Elgato or something on a Vermedia, like whatever capture card like that. You know, so things like that definitely help out, especially having access to that content, right? That access to other stuff to make whatever content that comes afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
For sure.
100%. So, yeah, Phony, go 100% with those Evercades or EverDrives.
And last up from 5th Gen Mook. Oh, you son of a bitch. What's the worst game you played this year besides Donkey Kong 64?
Oh, son of a bitch.
Donkey Kong 64 is not that bad.
Oh,
No,
you
it's worse. That game is goddamn awful.
Come on
The
now.
problem is
That's rare.
to make a game 40 plus hours of just basically find item and rinse and repeat.
That's Banjo-Kazooie.
The collectathon of Donkey Kong, like, and Jim conveniently got motion sickness playing it. So
I'm an old man.
I
need
had
more
to
than
play
15
through
frames per
it.
second and not a jerky camera. What can I say?
And I'm like looking for like one last thing or doing this or like, oh, I can't touch any of these items until I get the payoff was never there for me. When I would beat a level, it was just like, thank God I'm done with it. It wasn't like, that was so enjoyable, jumping from tree to tree and missing the goddamn jump, or not having the right camera angle and sliding down something and like having to read it. Like, yeah, that game I had. Like,
That's every
such
collectathon platformer ever
Yeah.
on the N64 practically.
which is
when you think about
why
it.
the N64
It had its
was also
phase. I
terrible.
am too old for that right now.
Yeah.
I do not have the time for that.
But yeah, worst game other
The
than
worst
that.
game. There's a couple. Like my easy answer would be Cyberpunk because I did play Cyberpunk at the very beginning of this year, like after the new year. That's an easy answer. I think the other one I would say that's a little bit much more different. I would say was World War Z on the Nintendo Switch because that game just did not run well on the Nintendo Switch. Because I did a video on it, like a first impressions, and like I know it's on other platforms and people actually enjoy it for one
Yeah, I
reason
was
or
gonna
another.
say
but
I
like,
played
when I played
it on
it,
Xbox.
yeah, it's like on multiple places, but like I got the Switch version when it first came out because they had sent it to me, and I was like, this game it just doesn't look right. It looks like it's banged up. There's a lot of like messed up like textures and bugs and stuff. It's like, this is weird.
Just
But
didn't
yeah,
go for
it's either
it.
that or Cyberpunk.
What about you, Chambers?
It isn't a bad game in general, but how I played it was bad. And that was me playing the 7th Guest on the CDI because it's not a terrible game.
CDI games.
But my God, the lag time between input and actually like any kind of movement in that game, it was just painful. Like you
That's
click
that
like
old tech.
yeah, you try. I mean, like it's impressive for what it is on the system and stuff like that. Like it looks good and all that, but like you click the button and you're waiting 3 full seconds before you move over, and God forbid you misclick and go to a door you don't want to go to. Then you got to go back and forth, and like going down a hallway takes 20 full minutes of like your life. So I was just, yeah, that was really rough, painfully rough.
So, all right, since I can't say Donkey Kong 64, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna be diplomatic here, and
Uh-oh.
it's a game Jim and I reviewed. And I'm not even saying it's not a bad game by any means. I just happen to play a lot of good games this year. and it's one that I wasn't crazy about. And I'll just say it was sent to us. So I'm going to leave it at that. It was a review we did. So
Jeez.
it's once again, it's not a bad game. So anyone listening, you can read between the lines. You can look at our video game reviews, and you'll probably figure it
Just
out.
fucking say it. It was Retromania.
You're just gonna start
Wrestling.
scratching
Jesus
through the
Christ.
videos. To
It
figure
was
out.
Retromania WrestleFest or wrestling, whatever. It didn't do anything for me.
Right. We said we like what they try to do with it. We're just like, on it. So
Yeah.
Meh.
Like I said, I
probably why they didn't retweet every review.
yeah.
Fair.
This year, I just really didn't play
understand.
that many shitty games. Whereas last year, with all the stupid suggestions Jim gave us that we had to do reviews for, I could fill up a fucking book with that. But yeah, this year
All
we didn't have
gold.
as many bad games.
Yeah, I'll give honorable mention to Haunted Castle off the Konami Arcade Collection because that game is
Oh wow.
a pile of shit. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Thank God that was on sale because the rest of the games on there are fine, but that game, woo.
I'm glad you brought that up. I need to fucking reach out. I don't know where the hell my Castlevania collection is at.
Oh, no, you're going to be...
Castlevania. I need to get the second one because I love Castlevania. Like I've reviewed a lot of Castlevania games, but I need to get the advanced collection when I get a chance.
Yeah, Brian ordered the super fancy edition off Limited Run Games. So Brian's new to the Limited
nice.
Run game, so you have to take with a grain of salt. You're lucky if a standard release gets to you in a couple months. You going for the fancy pants release, whew, you probably got a good year coming to you, boy.
The big one.
Ridiculous. Well, that'll be the last time I do that.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people are really starting to fall off that wagon because their turnover is not,
Yeah.
Not the best.
no, they're too. Here's the thing, like they're too small a company for how much shit they're putting out there, and I guess like they have new releases every month, and I know they're not a huge or every week, and I know they're not that big staffed, so.
They
I don't know,
got some
it works
dope
for them.
stuff that they've put out. Like there's stuff that's like out of print that I've wanted to buy from them that's like super dope, but they just don't have it in stock. Like the Shadows of the Empire one that came on that cartridge.
Oh, yeah, that
to me
was
that's
cool.
awesome. I love Shadows of the Empire. Granted, it's not the best game ever, but like that's a Star Wars game that I really appreciate, but I just can't buy it. And it's like, oh, okay, well, so much for that.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I've been suckering in time and time again by goddamn Limited Run. I've put some good money into them, and I like the games they put out on there. But after a while, you're just like, fuck, man, I don't want. By the time I get half these games, I don't even want to play them.
You don't
anymore.
want to
I don't
play.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The appeal's worn off.
And that's the problem with all the companies too, like Super Limited and Super Rare and all those. Like it's just a thing you kind of deal with, which is a
Yeah.
shame.
Yeah. No, but
But yeah, that wraps up the Patreon questions this week. So once again, thank you to everyone who sent in a question. I will be checking before the end of the episode because one always goddamn sneaks in. But once again, if you're new to the page, head on over to Patreon, where for $2 you can ask a question, we'll answer on the page. $5 gets you a game review of your choice. $10 makes us your billboard for your content. Head on over to there for some exclusive content and all that good stuff. And as always, if you're just discovering us through iTunes or Spotify, please make sure to follow us on there and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Whatever you write there, we'll read on the show.
all right. So we're back with some fresh beers. Jake James, how is that beer treating you?
It's good. I'm feeling the buzz. I'm feeling nice.
I like it.
Fun conversation, fun people, and fun beer. I'm good.
Cheers to that, bud. Speaking of, the Troganator on my second one. I'm not even close to buzz yet, but I already got that saliva tongue.
You're
That
feeling it.
high alcohol. Like all of a sudden you're like, got a lot more on my tongue this time.
Yeah.
And Chambers, your fancy saison.
Very tasty, very smooth. Definitely has it's got that nice blend. I'm not getting like any of the pepper out of it really that they're calling for, but the orange peel and the vanilla really comes through. But yeah, this is goddamn tasty. And then once I'm done with that, I know Brian waits before he dips into these, but I already have because I have a case of them. Good old Mad
Oh,
Elf.
you got the cans? What the?
No, Brian.
What is it? Is it like a thing against cans? Or like prefer the bottles instead?
I
The
have
bottles
cans
are
and
notably
bottles.
better than the bottles. Or, I'm sorry, the bottles are notably better than the cans.
No,
Yes, the bottles are notably better than the bottles.
The Troganator hit hard. But no, what do you call it? No, I got this case actually last year. And I was like, I never had Mad Elf out of a can. I'll get this too along with the bottles I normally get. So I have a 6-pack from this year in bottles, but I'm going through the canned stuff. It is noticeably not as good, but it's still tasty. But it doesn't compare to what you get out of a bottle. I'll give you that.
You wait all this year, and your first experience with it is subpar.
I've been having Mad Elf
for
like
shame.
10 years in a row. Like, fucking Mad Elf is Mad Elf.
He's like,
Jesus.
my God, sir.
Enjoy
shame.
your shit. Have pride.
Right. You know I have given up pride long ago. Pride, dignity, all that bullcrap. I don't-
Jim, would you say that's very similar to the Game of the Year nominees this year?
Oh,
Oh, you
Johnny
like that? Look
transition
at
over
that.
here.
So it is that time of year again, and we have the link below from the Game Awards. We cover it pretty
Everyone's
much every year.
Favorite award show.
Yeah, there's I don't even know how many. What would you say? 20-some categories. We're clearly not going to go through all
there's
of them.
30 categories.
30, yeah, which is ridiculous already.
It's a lot.
Oh, yeah, 6 times 5.
But what I will say is, I think it's no secret amongst us three of almost any given category, there's a lot of what the hell and head scratching going on here. And I think always the best place to start is Game of the Year. Now, Jakejames, you obviously have a significant more experience probably with a lot of the games, whereas I can tell you right now, looking at Game of the Year, let me just mention before we even give our opinions of it, we got Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. I have only played Resident Evil Village. I know about Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank, and Metroid Dread, and no idea about Deathloop or It Takes Two. So Jim is in worse condition than me on those.
Played none.
And so I think just hearing those, that is got to be one of the weakest entry, like, Game of the Year.
You know what is funny
contestants.
about that? The funniest thing about that is that I was literally listening to another podcast a while back that was saying almost the exact same thing, that it's indicative of like how kind of meh this year was when it came to like high quality games, you know, to pick for like what's the Game of the Year this year. Like, granted, I haven't played all these games, but I have been exposed to all of them, and I have like seen them at least significantly enough to judge a little bit, be like, okay, that seems like the one that's going to get it or not or whatever. I will tell you though that I did platinum Ratchet and Clank, and I did finish Metroid Dread because I did a video on Metroid Dread on the channel. For me, out of this entire list, I would say that the best game for me personally would probably be Metroid Dread, more than likely. Now, the thing is that I know is probably going to happen. It's more than likely either going to go to Deathloop, Resident Evil Village, or It Takes Two. More than likely. Even though I know that Psychonauts 2 is really good, and a lot of people have praised it. There's a lot of media people have said like that's the best game of the year. But like when I look at like, you know, what the Game Awards are, and like how like most of the time it's not really the game of the year that gets picked out that's like the best game of that year. Sometimes it's usually the one that makes the biggest splash, as we've seen in years past. I feel like this one is probably going to go to something like Resident Evil Village or Deathloop, more than likely.
So explain to me, is Deathloop kind of like Super Hot at all? Like, I don't know. I don't even know what
Deathloop basically it's if you've ever played Dishonored, that's
Yes.
exactly like what Deathloop is.
Okay.
And the thing is that it's a roguelike FPS. So it has roguelike elements where like if you die you respawn, but like things are constantly changing up for the most part as you're trying to assassinate these different people, and it's dynamic with that. That's what makes it so appealing for most people. And it's kind of cool. Like if you've ever played Rogue Legacy, imagine that same type of thing but in an FPS. That's exactly what Deathloop is.
I was gonna say, Jim and I have the past couple of weeks been talking. I, within the past 3 months, finally beat Hades, and now Jim has finally played through it.
Hades is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Hades is another last year that was a really worthy contender for Game of the Year. Last year was a dope year.
Last
That
year
was
was
a
much
Cinderella
better
for last year.
Yeah.
Last year,
One.
for the record, last year, even though The Last of Us Part 2 won, I would have said Ghost of Tsushima should have won that. Or Hades.
Yeah.
Heads up. And again, we had Final Fantasy VII Remake last year. Like, it was a hell of a year.
Last year was much
overall.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, but like with this one, Hades is a good comparison to what Deathloop is. As
Okay.
being like a roguelike or a rogue type of game.
Now, It Takes Two. What is that about?
That's co-op. That's a co-op experience. Like that, the whole thing about that is just playing cooperatively with another person, and most of the story and stuff is about a relationship that was broken or really messed up, but then it's like being repaired through their experiences as a couple.
Gotcha. Yeah, and yes, I've heard the same thing. Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank, like, those are always old standards, but I think they just have that. I don't want to call them niche, but they do have a more particular crowd. And like you said, you talk about Splash. I would say at the beginning of the year, man, Resident Evil Village.
Resident Evil Village had a huge with Lady Dimitrescu
Yeah.
or whatever her name is. That was like all the rage, like for a lot of people.
I can't remember a video game character, and not saying they did it for the right reasons, but to make the impact that it did, like I can't think of another video game character that
It was a fad.
it was for sure.
Like,
yeah,
there was a lot of characters. There's been characters throughout the year that have had like that type of like exposure, I guess you could say. But with Lady Dimitrescu, like she was an original character that just like really just had like a resonance with me for obvious reasons for what it was. But it at least helped out that game as far as getting out there to people.
And you know what? I've played through that game multiple times. I mean, I'm also a diehard Resident Evil fan from game one, so. I legit said, though, I love that game. Like, I love the twist of going, I was always mad before going away from zombies, but this one stayed horror and then tried some new shit. So I said I really enjoyed this game, but I never expect a Resident Evil game in this day and age to win. So I would like to see that win, but once again, cool. I'm a little biased there.
It'd be cool. I don't think it's going to win, though, but it would be really cool. I would be totally fine with that, to be honest with you, even though that's not my pick.
Yeah. And Jim, any thoughts at all?
You know what? There's a bunch I'd be fine with. Like, I'd be fine with Metroid. I'd be fine with Village. I'd be fine with... I'd probably be... Like, from what I hear with Ratchet and Clank, like, I hear it's really good. Yeah.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, I haven't played it, so I don't even have a PS5. So, yeah, I mean, I would probably... Yeah, I don't know. If Dread or Resident Evil wins, I'll be fine with that. Let me put it that way.
Gotcha. All right, so now going kind of the other end of the spectrum, and this is where it gets kind of weird to me, is when you talk about content creator of the year. Because I don't know. So this could be streamer or content creator. And once again, I'm going to say I didn't know a single person on this list. Now, I've admitted at the beginning, I'm not the guy that scrolls through everybody else's stuff. But my understanding is most of these are streamers anyway. And honestly, unless you're streaming a game I care about, and there's only like maybe 10 people on Twitch I actually follow, I doubly am not going to know you. So I can have zero opinion about that. Like, if you asked me to guess what these people create or do, I would have no idea based on what I'm seeing. So that one is just such a weird metric to me, because if you're not doing numbers, how else can you do it? And maybe they are doing numbers, but I don't know. What do you think, Jakejames?
Honestly, this is one of those categories like every year, especially last year. If you remember the nominees for last year, where it was very questionable. I think there's a lot of questionable things with conflicts of interest for a lot of things, because a lot of people, especially in the industry, people know each other. People know different people. Like, there's a lot of relationships and stuff. Last year, one of the things that I said, even though I love her and I watch her content, I said that Alana Pierce should have never been on that ballot for Content Creator of the Year, because she works now for Sony Santa Monica, and she has worked for all the people who are judging the Game Awards. It's things like that where... you have to call into question. She didn't win last year, which is fine, And again, I'm not trying to take anything away from her, but it's questions like that where you look at these categories a little sideways with it. And I can even say the same thing with here, even though I don't know most of these people like that. There's a lot of people that said that, was it Scott the Woz should have been on here for one reason or another.
For the way he blew up, he should have been on there, I think.
This is just it's just a weird thing. It's like, okay, how do you judge that? How do you actually say like who's worthy enough to be on there? Because if you're not doing numbers, if you don't have like million plus subscribers, I feel like you couldn't get on something like this at all. And there's a lot of content creators that I would argue that I feel like can make an argument or debate that have better content than some of the people who might be on here. But again, it's a very subjective thing, and it's very hard to judge that, and it's very hard to make a case for that. So, and personally, if I had my way, I wouldn't even have a category like this at the Game Awards, because we should be celebrating the games as opposed to the content creators that are making this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it should really be focused more about the games themselves and a celebration of the games that we enjoy. But that's just me. I give a lot of credit to Jeff Keighley for at least, trying to make things work and at least trying to give a little something to everybody, because this is clearly one of those things where it's a popularity contest. Straight up.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of it. Like, one person could have better content than the other, but like really it's the one that has the most numbers that's going to do this. I bet you, if you remember years ago, okay, when Angry Joe, was it PewDiePie, Greg Miller, and a few other people were on there as the list. Greg Miller won because he was the only one that was actually marketing that he wanted to win that category. So his audience went and voted. But if PewDiePie would have decided to do the same thing, he would have automatically won that. Like it would have been no contest because he's the biggest creator on the platform. Right now.
And it's a weird thing
too. It really comes down to that.
Yeah, it's a weird thing too because like I think someone posted it, and for as much as you can trust that. But apparently, like 90% of the votes come from like industry people, and then the last 10% is fan voting.
I can tell you this, as someone that knows people that have voted at the Game Awards like that, it comes from different websites, that people that work for certain websites like IGN, like Polygon, Giant Bomb, etc. And that's where, to me, where questions of conflict of interest come into play. So if like you have a creator, like again, like just using her as an example, Alana Pierce, who's worked for some of these websites, who has friends at these websites, like automatically, more than likely, they're going to vote and give credence to the person that they know, that they've had a relationship with, as opposed to any of these other people. Like it's different things like that come up. And the same thing also is for games, that, you see people talk about games a certain way, online and stuff like that. It just creates these really awkward conversations that I feel like a lot of people don't want to have.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree 100%. I mean, we definitely don't gotta get into it, but I feel the same way about categories like best esports athlete and team. That's another one. Coach, and I'm
or what is it? The games for change is another one.
Yeah,
that's another one that's very awkward when you really think, because games for change. What does that mean? Like, what does that really like? Represent, or what does that mean to certain people, especially fans of video games? Like, it's just a very awkward conversation to have.
Yeah. But what was interesting, so I decided, I was like, let me go through some of the other categories. And one game I'm actually shocked didn't go on Game of the Year. I thought it got a ton of press, and I know it got talked about for a while, was Valheim. Like, I know that got a lot. It's in a ton of other categories. I was a little shocked that didn't get more steam.
Could be a number of different things. Like, there's also a lot of people made the argument that Forza should have been in this conversation.
I was about to say Forza too.
Yeah. The thing is that one, the timing of it, because sometimes games release later in the year after the deadline to get submitted to be part of the Game Awards for certain categories. But also keep in mind, there's just some people that just like, again, talk about games a little bit more or certain games a little bit more than others, like that. I'll tell you right now, one game that should not be in any of these categories, and I said it before even when we started recording, the Cyberpunk should not be in any of these categories, like straight up.
Yeah.
Because that was a game that was like, not only had the most terrible launch of this year, but also got pulled from the PSN store. Like, that just straight up does not happen. Like, it's just a weird thing where it's like, okay, like, best RPG of the year? Nah. Like, that's not a game that should be winning like a category. Or best music or soundtrack? That's like, nah. There was other games that were more stable, that had better stuff going for them, that should win categories like that. It's just very weird sometimes when you start thinking about this stuff with the Game Awards. Even though I think that the awards ceremony, like the show itself, is necessary, and it's actually could do something that could do a lot of good overall.
Oh, yeah. But like you said, at the end of the day, I think Cyberpunk probably petitioned and market it harder than any of the games on these lists that we're talking about.
And there's the potential for Keanu Reeves for showing up at the Game Awards. That's really why that game is even there. Yeah. Like, when you really think about it, it sucks to say, but it's like,
they need some kind of, of course. No, that makes a lot more sense. So, I'm curious. What are your guys' thoughts? You look through the links below, look at the categories, look who submitted. What are some other surprises? What are some misses? And what are your guesses for winners? Because we like interacting with you all. So you let us know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we all know it's really it's like any award show. It's just an advertisement for the industry.
Like a giant marketing.
That's why. Yeah. That's why you have all these different things that they threw.
We're only watching it because of the world premiere trailer. Let's be honest with ourselves. Like, we're going there because we know there's going to be some hype announcements. Because there's always hype announcements. You got to give Jeff Keighley credit for getting like big reveals at the Game Awards. Like, look,
that's the only
everybody
thing
freaked
like
out
Super
when they
Bowl
saw Joker was coming to Smash.
Yeah,
or when he got the first Elden Ring trailer over E3. It's like, wow, like, it's insane.
No. But I'm very curious. What are your guys' thoughts? All right, Chambers. So this next one, you can mention it. I know it's basically been resolved. Why don't you give some history as to what this is all about?
Yeah, so Atari. Now, we all know the Atari that of today is not the Atari of long ago.
It's
so
not? See what I did there?
Nah. See, put myself in the corner there, didn't I? But yeah, so the Atari of today, so they have a little spin-off division called AtariXP, which is starting to bring some old ROMs and giving them releases, giving them a little bit of life. So they announced last week that they were going to be releasing 3 games, and it was Yara's Return. Shit, I should have clicked on the first one there. Hold on a second.
God damn it, Jim.
Right, edit this.
It's Yara's Return.
Yara's Return, Saboteur, and Aqua Adventure.
Yep.
So they actually, how this got traction is because they obviously just threw some money at Screenwave and said, hey, promote this for us. So, and Screenwave did, when Screenwave has done lately, they didn't do any, background research on it. So they did it through the Cinemassacre account, Mike Matei, Aaron Plays Games, and probably a couple others. And yeah, it was all the same ad, so you knew it was just an ad, whatever. But, so the big problem is, well, I have a few problems with this, but the biggest problem that came out was they all said that these were undeveloped and unpublished ROMs by Howard Scott Warshaw, who was the developer of Yar's Revenge and, unfortunately, E.T., but he's like, like a legend in the Atari sphere. And then, people like Frank Cifaldi and even Warshaw himself was just like, I had nothing to do with these. Like, everyone who had like any like vague knowledge of like recent Atari was just like, these are fan-made ROM dumps that you guys just said that he worked on and that you're selling now. So this was a whole thing to do. It's like, man, fuck, how far has Atari goddamn fallen? Now, my biggest problem with these goddamn things is, and they might have updated it since I last looked at it, but they're charging $50 per cartridge, and you can pay $150 to get a box with a manual with a poster in it.
Yo, that's a lot.
Are you fucking kidding me?
That's a lot, B. Like, seriously. Like, it's weird because there's been a lot of weird stuff with Atari lately. Like, between the stuff with the Atari VCS with Tommy Tallarico and all this other stuff, there's been a lot of weird stuff with it. But that's insane. Like,
yeah, like, I mean, that's nostalgia rape right there. That's all it is. Like, I guarantee they saw what the fucking people on Atari Age have been doing, like you said, with the Amico, and how they're, like, white knighting this, obvious bad idea.
Yeah, but even then, come on now. Like, you're going to really pay almost $100 for a game like that. Like, even for collection purposes. It's like, it's not like freaking Nintendo, like, was it the Nintendo tournament thing that they had, you know what I'm talking about, like the stupid
World
like,
Championships
contest
thing.
thing. Yeah, the World Championships thing. Like, it's nothing like that. Like, that's insane to me.
But here's the deal, Jim. Like, so I get of forums, it could be argued Atari Age is one of the most active for a system.
Super active, super hardcore.
Yeah. So what I'm saying though is, best case, I don't know their numbers, but of the hardcore people within there, what, 1,000? Maybe 2,000 are willing to go out and purchase it for this amount?
Nah.
There's no way they're all that willing to.
I would even be generous and say, like, for all the Atari hardcores and the collectors out there, like 10 grand tops, 10 grand people.
I don't think it's even that much.
Not even. I think it's less than that, to be honest with you.
And here's the fucked up thing about it. These aren't, like, games that have never been released, even though they're fan-made ROMs and shit like that. My first thought was, wait, motherfucker. This came out in the Atari Flashback 2 back in the mid-2000s. I have a Flashback 2. I played all the goddamn games on it for videos for the page. I was like, wait, I've already played these fucking games. And they've been on, like, every Flashback since.
So, besides, okay, so we know the price is ridiculous. But going back to really what I would say is more fucked up is just, hey, claiming that Howard Scott Warshaw was involved with this. And the blatant way it was written in there, and like I said, this guy, if not a little over the top, thoroughly covers that, hey, this is misleading, this is fucked up. And
he's from the Video Game History Society, too, so, like,
he knows what's up, bottom line. Like.
And they now have changed it on their site. It no longer says that. But here's my question. Because they're in association with Atari, like, is this a case of someone in marketing or whoever just wrote it, it wasn't checked, or do you think they were directed? Like, let's put this on.
No,
here?
I just think they just messed up.
Like,
honestly,
it was just
like,
a
it seems like
fuck
one of those, because it was also quickly changed up. Like it was actually, I think it was like removed or whatever,
Yeah.
like that, where it was like quickly changed up because like that's like borderlines on like false advertising, like on certain stuff.
And that's what I
Oh,
mean.
no,
That
that's
got changed
complete
up
false
real quick.
advertising because you're just
Yeah.
trying to appeal to the Atari Sims. So you say
Yeah,
Harry
exactly,
Scott Warshaw
like-
worked on it. That's your selling point right there.
Yeah, so and he came out and said I had nothing to do with this. So like that was like immediately changed up. So I just think that just somebody didn't fact check.
And you know what? The thing is, what I will put money down on, if you look at the way it's written, it's exactly the style and how it's set up in Wikipedia. I think it was just copy and pasted over.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like somebody can make that type of common mistake. Like
Yeah.
it's silly.
So, even on Wikipedia, it's just saying design, but, it says the same thing. So that's where it's like,
Well, yeah, I mean, he made Yars Revenge, so,
Yeah.
like, you might want to think, but Yars Return's fucking dog shit, too. Like, I know someone eventually, like, fixed it, but the version I played was goddamn dog shit. Aqua Adventure and Saboteur are fun. They're not $50 fun for a cartridge, but they are fun.
Yeah, not $100 even. Like hell no. Like that's way too expensive.
I was going to
for
say,
that.
like, what is even... So since it is homebrews, they don't need to get the right since it's getting done through Atari. Like, what could it possibly cost?
It's all befuddled. Like it's all over the place. Like
Yeah.
with homebrew stuff, it's just like that. That's just stuff that's just done just for the sake of being done. And like legally, like it sounds like a obviously like a huge
Yeah.
mess. Like
I don't know. To
crazy.
me, I've said this many times. Any game, like what was that game, Jim? Was it last week or the week before? That one that completely shit the bed on the Genesis. We were just talking.
Paprium.
Paprium. Like, I don't know. It goes back to the Evercade, all these things. I respect that some people want to make homebrews or new games for old consoles, but then when I see prices to it, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I don't know. Like that's a scene I'll never understand, and this is just another example. And like I said, it does suck. Like, Cinemassacre is one of those channels I've always loved. For all their content.
Because AVGN, that's
Yeah.
classic. That's the Bugs Bunny of content creation when it comes to games.
Oh yeah,
True.
that
Yeah, real
and
talk.
Monster Madness, like those were always my go-to for many years in a row. I'd rewatch episode after episode, and as of late, I think they've gotten, like Jim said, maybe not following up with doing homework on things they're putting out there. That sucks. Like it's little things like this that are going to keep piling up.
You know what it is? It's the changing of the times because, again, like a lot of those channels, especially AVGN and Cinemassacre, was really in like the Wild West of like what YouTube was back then,
yeah.
especially content creation for games back then. Because I think everybody loves James Rolfe to an extent. Like, especially for like what the type of content he does, especially from back then. There's a lot of his very classic and a lot of stuff. And again, I will even acknowledge, I had the privilege of speaking to him one time for an interview that I did where we were talking about this type of stuff. And I think that everybody's going to love like the type of content that he does. I think that also at the same time, the reality of like the changing landscape that is YouTube and it is content creation in general is going to have like these effects and have these things that come up that is just very unsavory overall. And a lot of people are going to just kind of like, really feel a certain type of way about it. That's just, again, it's very uncomfortable to talk about.
Yeah, and especially after the problem that they had a couple weeks ago.
Oh, with the plagiarism? Yeah, like-
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't blame Cinemassacre and I don't blame James Rolfe for that. I blame that solely on the person that messed up or did that stuff because again, the buck stops with them. At the end of the day, they have to take responsibility for that. But the internet and the way that sometimes they could operate is like, oh, like you guys, like there was like some big conspiracy and stuff at times. Like it's just silly. But overall, I blame specifically that person.
Yeah. It will
Unfortunately,
always
he's
fall
the face
on
of the
him.
company, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's the part
Exactly.
that sucks. But yeah, like I said, we'll like you said with the Tommy Tallarico shit and what's going on there, like
That's a whole nother can of worms. That's a thing that I still don't understand to this day. And I've followed it since the beginning, because
too.
again, for various websites and stuff, like it's just very stupid. It's like, because I respect Tommy Tallarico. I respect him from the Judgment Day days from, was it G4? Like, that's why I respect Tommy Tallarico. But like, all this stuff is just weird, man.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we've said it before, just as a TLDR for everyone. I think he had good intentions, but he went way over his head and had no idea how real game and system development goes. And now we're stuck with this.
Yeah, just do EverDrives.
Yeah, we're just fucking.
But yeah, just don't do it. Do something.
Just
better.
don't do it. Yeah, yeah.
Or release empty boxes with coins and NFT cards in them. Okay.
Jim, was that your way of trying to transition to the next topic?
Oh,
unintentionally, but I will take it.
So we did cover it's an expansion on what we've covered previously with Steam, but the news is out there, and this comes to us from NME.com. They are now removing games with not only NFTs, but with any type of crypto. And the biggest game that I guess is kind of doing this is Age of Rust. And Age of Rust put out a big Twitter thread on this and said that they were always upfront about using blockchain and using crypto. And they've always let Steam know, but Steam has come up with this decision. So you can no longer do that.
And the big problem there is because like Age of Rust lets you basically like you get either crypto coins or like NFTs from it, which have real world value instead of just like in-game value kind of deal. So that's where it gets a little murky. And it's like, yeah, you can't like gain actual value from playing the games in game. That's like
you know why
Steam
they made that ruling though? Like in all honesty, is because one, Steam doesn't want the legal responsibility in case something goes wrong, but also two, because things have real world value like that, they just don't want to have to deal with whatever stuff that comes with it afterwards. Like the other problem is too is that NFTs and other stuff, especially digital things, could be somehow easily abused. Which I just don't think they even want to deal with that problem, at all, like completely. And I can't blame them. You know, if you really think about it, especially for stuff that, one, they're not getting a cut of. You know, it's the same thing even that you could say, like, between Apple and Fortnite, where that was that whole big skirmish between them, that Apple wasn't really going to be making a profit or getting any sort of, like, the cut from the in-app purchases that Fortnite was trying to do. That's why that whole case happened that. You can say the same thing here, you know, with NFT and Steam, you know, because obviously if your game is on Steam, Steam wants to see a cut of whatever it is that you're doing and stuff. But also, again, they just don't want the responsibility for whatever legal mumbo jumbo that happens.
And the biggest legal thing is it's all tax things, because just like any app you use to buy crypto, like you need to fill out tax shit. And at the end of the day,
and it's different for every region. Keep in mind, it's not just here in the United States or North America. It's also in Europe, which is even just as bad, if not worse. There's Australia, which is even worse than everybody else. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, and think about it. Since Steam would be the ultimate proprietor, that's what they're saying. Like Age of Rust, like their Age of Rust isn't handling it. So is Steam being the party? Like they'd have to now be like, "Hey, 8-year-old who's playing this game, you got like." There are so many weird things about like you said, the crypto. I said I'm not for it because now you are taking what is supposed to be a casual, you know, escapism, if you will, a fun activity. And when people do see basically people can earn money through this, like it starts making it really.
It's very weird.
I don't like that at all. Like, and it's funny. I saw some defenders of this. Most of them just clowning on Age of Rust. They're like, I can't believe how mean you're being to them. And some of them, they're like, they just don't see the future and da 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 da. And I'm like,
that's such an awkward discussion to have. And again, it's an awkward argument to make because like a lot of people don't even understand like really what NFTs really are. Like as far
including
as like, the
people collecting,
let alone what they actually are, you know, when it comes to real money exchanges. And I just think that Steam and just the people that are over there just don't want to deal with that problem. They don't want the headache.
That's what it's got to be. Because I am like mining fucking crypto in a game itself. Don't do that. Using crypto as currency for shit. Like I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, fine. Use crypto, but again, like you're saying, Jakejames, like it's probably just a thing where like I don't want to deal with all the legal mumbo jumbo between countries.
What if something goes wrong? Like who's responsible for that? It's Steam. Like I don't think Steam wants that responsibility. Like hell with that. Like that would suck.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing. And to Jim's point, it's one thing if you somehow say like you can purchase stuff in game with crypto, versus you're earning it, and that's what I'm saying.
When you
like,
start to earn,
Yeah,
that's
but
when it's
does
like,
Steam get a cut of that though? That's the biggest
Oh,
problem.
yeah.
That's what I think is really at the heart of this. Is like, does Steam get a cut of this? Like,
Yeah,
if they're
which
not
is
getting
no.
a cut of that, and you're
Yeah.
just making all the profit, like hell no. Like, why would we have you on our platform? Like, it just makes no business sense to do that.
yeah.
I don't trust any game that tries to push this shit too hard either, because they see a money making potential that at the end of the day, just like a casino, the players will be losing. The
That's
house
like
will
what happened
always
with
win.
Counter Strike. If you remember a while back, that was like a Counter Strike thing with the skins.
Oh,
and stuff.
yeah.
That was the exact
Yeah.
same thing. Like with the whole again, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like T Mart and Pro Syndicate got really big trouble
Yes,
for that
they
at
did.
one point with the casino stuff. Like again, it's just stuff that I feel like it causes more problems than what needs to be. And Steam is like, you know what, the hell with this. Like hell no. And
Yeah.
you're gonna
Or
see a
people
lot
used
of
to
games
pay
get
for a
pulled
hat in
off
Team
because of that.
Fortress. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this is one situation where I hope that's not a path for a lot of games going forward, but I'm hoping I'm wrong.
I mean, with the way celebrities are already pushing NFTs and shit like that, like, it's coming. Like, you're not going to stop the future because we don't know any better. Shit like
But
that.
see, the NFTs are going to be like, I guarantee you that's going to be another fad thing.
It just
It's
feels
gonna
overhyped
be,
to me.
yeah, it's going to be like trading cards. It's going to be like Pogs. It's going to be like any collectible that
Exactly.
someone thinks like, this is it. This is going to be where I dump all my money. It's another money making scheme that too many
Exactly.
people like us would waste our money on, lose our savings, at the end make someone else rich, and in 10 years they're going to be like, I can't believe I fucking put money
If
in
it
for
was
that.
really that big of a thing or really that revolutionary, other more qualified people from other bigger companies would have already jumped on it.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. And,
Yeah.
and honestly, Steam would have been more open to it if that was the case.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think it's going to be a shit show. But I think good on Steam, like put the kibosh, because they actually, if you think about gaming, are probably bigger than any other gaming.
Oh, yeah, no, they're one of the biggest platforms out there.
Oh,
Yeah.
straight up.
And like I think like again back to the crypto, like shit like PayPal and stuff like that takes crypto now. So you convert your crypto to PayPal to pay for a game through there. Fine, whatever. Steam will get their cut, blah 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 blah. But yeah, like just the in-game generation, like go fuck yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys, comments below. Once again, you let us know what you think. If you know a whole shit ton about it, reach out to us, because we would still love, if somebody is an expert in NFTs, I would love to pick your brain and be like, why'd you waste your time?
Oh yeah. Oh no, we're dumb dummies. So if you can make a convincing argument, you let us know. At least me.
Damn it, Jim. Dumb.
I need a new grift. I need to get rich quick scheme to make up for all my other ones that failed.
Damn it. Jim, you mean AMC isn't making you rich yet?
Actually, AMC I made a decent little profit on, but then I dumped it into a fucking shit stock, and then
Yo,
that
for the
fucking all went
record, I like
bye-bye.
AMC theaters. I'm just saying. Like,
Oh, dude,
there's
that's
an
where I
AMC
grew
right next
up.
to me. That's
Yep.
pretty dope.
Where I grew up, we had AMC. That was my go-to theater for longest time. So
No one loves Regal.
Yeah, I was a big Regal guy for like the longest time.
But let's be honest
like,
here,
the
it's
AMC
not
is just
AMC.
closer to me. Like
yeah,
Didn't
Regal,
have the arcades at AMC yet.
Yeah.
Regal's fine.
Didn't have Time Crisis.
AMC's got a bar too. So
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Let's
Yes, they
put it
do
this
now.
way: AMC is the Super Nintendo, Regal is Genesis. So
no. That's just
You
comparison.
piece of shit.
with your 3-button controller standard.
I will start.
For the record, though, a Regal was nice when it came to the free refills and actual perks with the Regal Crown Club. I'm just saying, like that. Before AMC came over here and was like mad closer to me.
Wait, let's be honest though.
Yeah, see,
Especially
they
as a
cared
kid.
about their customer, not like goddamn Nintendo fucking shutting down
And
fan
let,
sites and
well,
shit.
don't even get me started. But Jim, you support. What's funny is you don't support old Nintendo. You only support new Nintendo that just shits all over their fans' faces.
All
so-
I'm saying is like you don't need to get the expansion
Some
pass
people like
for
scat.
Nintendo Switch Online. Is all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Oh, dude.
Oh, don't worry, we're not. Even me, for as much of a Genesis and N64 fanboy as I am,
I'm
I
one
saw
of the
that and
few
went,
people
"Yeah."
that came up from the very get go that said that Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass was the worst idea to get right now.
I agree
Like
with
at
you.
from the very get go, because like that was a thing that's just like, listen, like if you still support this even as a content creator, you're creating more of the problem than what it actually is right now. Like,
No, there's so many people I saw that were just like, yeah, I know I'm part of the problem, but I want it. It's like,
But it's
like
even
then
more than
things don't
just
change.
wanting it. it goes back to everyone needs that clout. Everyone needs that YouTube picture of the face with
That's
the
not
expansion.
even that. It's just that, listen, even before like the emulation problems, it's just like on principle, this does nothing for the service. This doesn't make Nintendo Switch Online a better service. Like that was the reason why I was like, listen, this is not a good idea, and like nobody listened to me.
It's yeah. But all right, guys. So we have our reoccurring bit, and it's obviously topical with tomorrow being Thanksgiving by the time this comes out. So which is better? It's very generic. The actual Thanksgiving Day and the dinner and all the apps leading up to it, or are you guys you like the leftovers, making homemade gobblers or turkey sandwiches or all this shit? Like, what do you prefer? The big to-do the day of, or the
day of
scratching your ass next day and you're coming down
day
and
of, son.
you're
Like,
all
the
day of.
Like, because there's a charm to it. There's an aura to it. Like when it's the holidays, like when you hit Thanksgiving or when you hit Christmas, like when you're on that day, like things are going good.
Yep.
Like you feel good on Thanksgiving Day, like, 'cause like later that evening, you're getting a dinner that's like the greatest thing since sliced bread. Like it's just like an awesome time, and you're gonna have like dessert. You're gonna have like all these things. So, granted, the leftovers afterwards, like the day after or the like a week after, because depending on how much turkey you have and stuff, is gonna be awesome. Like your whole week is gonna be good, but like still, on that day when you're like having Thanksgiving dinner, it's like you're thankful for everything that's going on and stuff. There's a charm to that. There's a vibe to it that's really kind of sticks with you.
What about you, Chambers?
See, I
feel like you're a leftovers man.
I'm a leftovers man. One, because depending on your Thanksgiving, there might be some times with Thanksgiving where some people you're around, you're just like, nah, I'm doing this because I got to be here. But, that's what happens sometimes. Depending on the years, you have different people, different places you go to. You make the rounds. You do what you got to do. But the leftovers never let you down.
That's all
The
gym
leftovers
time.
The leftovers soak in their juices day after day.
Leftovers are dope.
The flavor exfoliates through every nook and cranny of every piece
Give that
of
turkey
food.
or mac and cheese a day, and you're good to go.
That's goddamn right. And just like you said, Jakejames, that shit's good a week after you're fucking eating it,
whole
too.
week.
You
The whole
have
week is good.
That's right. You have a whole goddamn week of just meals that you will not be disappointed. So I am leftovers all the goddamn way.
See,
let me ask you something. Like, when it comes to like leftovers, right? Like, do you prefer leftovers of side dishes or like of the turkey? Because like, I think like the turkey's got a charm to it, especially as leftovers like the couple days afterwards. But it's the side dishes that really make it good, because you got mac and cheese, you got candy apple yams, you got that cranberry sauce. You got mashed potatoes.
You're 100% right. It's all about the side dishes.
Oh,
it's
so good.
You can throw some other protein in there, but as long as you have those like banging side dishes along there with it. I do say though, I will say ham prepared the right way.
Yeah, ham
holds up
is pretty
way
good.
better than the turkey does.
See, but here's the problem with turkey. Like, I feel like it's more versatile in what I'm going to use it for. Whereas I'm not just going to have turkey. Like, I'll heat it back up in some gravy, or I'll make a turkey sandwich. You can put it in soup. Like, there's a couple different things.
There's a lot you can do with it.
Whereas ham, I'm really just eating ham like ham.
And
like,
the thing is, turkey, for some people, they'll only have it at that time of the year. With ham, you can have like...
ham,
there's no like special thing with ham. Like with turkey,
true.
there's a resonance with it.
Turkey, well, I was going to say, turkey is like, Thanksgiving and Christmas are really the only times I'm having turkey. But like you said, ham, even if we have ham, both of those, we're probably having it Easter. We're probably having it some other time in between.
Specifically, like for ham, specifically, because again, I'm Puerto Rican, and again, like ham is like we have a lechon, like depending on like the time of year and stuff. Like that's the thing that we can have frequently throughout the year. With turkey, it's specifically for Thanksgiving, and specifically for maybe Christmas at the most. But even then, like for me personally and my family, it's Thanksgiving. Yeah, like that's like the time for turkey.
That's the time for turkey.
That is true. Very true.
And see, I see both your sides, and what I say is, this is going to sound weird, I enjoy the food more as leftovers, but the kind of tradition of like, all I'm expected to do on Thanksgiving Day is get the drinks I want, and I'm a person, I love walking by the table and getting all the little side dishes, the appetizers, the shit like that, like stuffed mushrooms or this, or like all shit that I'm not usually eating throughout the year, deviled eggs, all that shit. Like, true. I love just like walking through, eating that, getting some shrimp cocktail, getting this and that. Like, I'm eating all day long, And then, like, by the time I eat dinner, honestly, I'm like already kind of stuffed.
Let me ask you, like, do
Yeah.
you fast on Thanksgiving Day? Because I fast. Like, I fast in the morning and the afternoon. And so when it comes to dinner time, I'm going all in.
I
on
fast,
Thanksgiving
yeah, I
dinner.
fast until stuff, those, like I said, those side dishes. And what I try to do is, like, okay, say we have dinner at, like, 3:30 or 4, whatever time we have. If stuff starts getting put on the table at, like, 2, like, say, like, the cheeses, the little meats, or, like, things like that, and all the deviled eggs, once it hits the table, it's fair game. But yeah, I'll
Yeah.
basically not really do a breakfast. I'll not do a lunch because I know I'm going to be snacking.
I'll skip lunch straight
Yeah.
up. Like,
there's
I'll
no
have
need
like a
for it.
small breakfast, like maybe like something to eat, like eggs
Yeah.
or whatever else like that. But I'll skip lunch on Thanksgiving Day, and I'll just fast throughout the day. So when it comes to dinner time, I'm just going in like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
like for whatever else is there.
Yeah, like, and I love the tradition of, like, yeah, you're like, now granted, I think Jim is different where I know he's probably has to travel more, or as he said, he gets roped into certain things that I might not get roped into quite as much. but like, that's one of those things, like, yeah, I like the tradition of the holiday. So I definitely enjoy the day, but the food itself, like I said, the day over, like I said, when you restack that plate of leftovers with all
Yeah.
the sides, everything, and it is weird. You don't get tired of it, but I don't get tired of that because, I do not touch cranberry sauce or stuffing or other shit throughout the rest of the year. I'm saying,
I never have cranberry
Yeah,
sauce.
like,
exactly.
I'm saying, once
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
week
like
or
I
so
never have
of-
turkey like
yeah.
at any time during the year,
Yeah.
like other than Thanksgiving.
Once that week is over, that shit's gone forever. So it's like, yeah, I make sure, like, day in, day out. I get tired of leftovers by day 3 for sure. With Thanksgiving, no, I can keep eating that shit all week long. So
Yep.
yeah, that's really tough. I think
Now,
I'm gonna
is that
stick.
just for the dinner food though? Because also for me, it's the same thing like that, but also for the desserts. Because we'll get like sweet potato pie, we'll get
Okay.
apple pie, like
Yeah.
that. Sometimes we'll get like lemon meringue, like different pies or different other stuff. Like we'll have sometimes cheesecake during
See-
Thanksgiving, like that. Like
yeah.
it depends on like
Oh,
what
dude,
we have.
I
Oh,
fuck
the
so.
multi-flavored cheesecake with the 4 different cheesecakes.
Yeah,
Nom, 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 nom.
and
See-
we have it with coffee too. We have it with lattes. Like,
Well,
we'll
yep.
make like different types of coffee and stuff.
So I fuck up a pie, and my wife, she makes homemade pecan pie, pumpkin pie,
yeah.
blueberry pie, and she knows how to make the shit out of pies. And that's the thing is, like, yeah, all week long, every single day I know of that week, like past it, I know I'm having a piece of pie, and like that's my thing. That's my go-to nighttime dessert. So
Yeah.
like it's like I said,
so
that's
good.
why I enjoy the leftovers more because they last longer. But I love the tradition, the day of, like I said, the whole thing around it,
There's an aura about it. Like,
Yeah.
granted, there's the food. Then for some people, it's football. On top of that, then there's also wrestling for some people. Like, there's a whole vibe on that day for everything. Like the whole day, like you're just on it. Like it just happens, like passively, which is great. Like I just love stuff like that. For me, a lot of time for Thanksgiving, besides the food and stuff like that, and besides the football and everything else, like I'll watch a lot of different shows like online on like Netflix and stuff. Like it's just something that just like plays in the background. Like even if I'm not like watching it specifically, it's part of the vibe. That's part of the whole like tradition of the holiday. That's just fun for me. It's like on Christmas, same thing. Like usually every year for Christmas, we'll watch the Star Wars movies, like all 6 movies, like straight through, like that. But it's like part of the tradition and part of like the actual aura and part of the vibe.
But
of
it's
the year.
9 now.
Yeah. Like it's really fun for me.
So yeah, no, and talking about tradition, yeah. So me, football's on when it's on, but every year like watching the first Rocky is our go-to. Like that's
Yeah.
I put it on every single year. So yeah, like I love all those aspects. So I go with Thanksgiving Day, but I do acknowledge, man, leftovers. There's a special place in my heart for leftovers, without a doubt. Like it. Of any holiday, there's no other holiday I care about leftovers. I mean, granted, everyone celebrates shit differently, but like, Christmas is fine. New Year's having the pork and rice and all that, that's fine. But yeah, Thanksgiving, completely different.
Yeah.
It just
Good
hits a
vibe.
whole nother way. But Jim, I somehow knew putting this up here. I was like, I know Jim is a leftovers guy.
Yeah.
But that's also because I feel like you do probably so much running around, and as you said.
Yeah, it's calmed down in more recent years, but there was a while where I'd be making like 5 stops during like Thanksgiving Day, and I was just like, "Fucking."
I would not.
kill
Yeah,
me.
I would probably not enjoy that at all. Yeah,
Do you guys do Friendsgiving? Like, cause for me this year, like I'm gonna have my Thanksgiving with my family, and then like the weekend afterwards, I'm gonna go to a friend's place for a Friendsgiving and have a dinner like that, which is also gonna have turkey and stuff like that.
We typically, I don't know, we didn't do it last year, obviously, because of COVID and shit like that, but maybe this year we'll do it back up. One of our group of friends always has, like, a big friend get-together, like, Friendsgiving kind of deal, so I don't know if we're doing that this year, but no, that was always fun. Like, we all just sit around,
Yeah.
get drunk, we'll play LCR, eat a shitload of
Yeah.
food, so...
Because I'll
Well,
bring
that's the
drinks
thing.
and I'll bring
Yeah.
like dessert stuff like for Friendsgiving and stuff like outside my family because I'll get stuff from my family. But when I'm gonna go to like somebody's house, like I'll bring something to contribute to the thing, especially if they're cooking.
Oh, yeah, of
and,
course.
and Friendsgiving at the end of the day, that's really much more about just the boozing. Like the food is good, but it's not the centerpiece like regular Thanksgiving is. So yeah, once again, everyone out there listening, you let us know what's your favorite, what do you prefer, and also throw out what are some of your favorite side dishes or what is your favorite leftovers with the turkey. Like what do you do with that shit? And obviously, if you're listening to this, it's Wednesday. I know it's the biggest drinking day of the year, so make sure, even though Jim and I are notorious drunks, be safe. Definitely don't drink and drive. There's
Yeah, don't be
better options
stupid.
out there. Yeah. Don't
Exactly.
do that shit.
Make sure to have us playing in the background as you go through your travels from bar to bar.
That's right. That's right.
Don't be that guy, but be smart and have fun. Overall.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of drinking, Jake James, now was that number 3 you're finishing off now?
This is number 3, son.
Okay, so I was
I'm
going to say,
almost done.
how's it feeling?
It feels good. It feels chill overall. Like because again, I have a higher tolerance, when it comes to alcohol and stuff. Because again, when I drink a lot. Like
Yeah,
that, but I also
Mr.
eat
15% wine over here. Yeah.
food. Yeah, like I drink. I eat also sometimes. Like before even we start recording, I had like pretzels and other stuff with it. So like it vibes. It feels good overall, and I like it. It tastes pretty good. And again, with everything with the conversation and all this stuff, drinking, it feels pretty good overall.
Yeah. Chambers, what'd you
Yeah.
move on after you finished your big bottle?
No, I had the Mad Elf that you bitched
Oh, that's
me at.
right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's Mad Elf. What are you going to do? Not as good as out of a bottle, I'll say, but it's still got that cherry explosion in your mouth and 13% alcohol, so I can't complain.
Yeah. And Troganator, like I said, this will be the only beer throughout fall and probably most of winter that's my backup beer. Of anything I'm not trying new, that's going to be like, I'm always going to have a couple of those in my fridge. So I can't
Let me
recommend
ask you
it enough.
something. Like, did you guys ever have like hot alcoholic drinks like as we get into the winter? Like, I actually got into this thing where I think it was like a hot cider or something, but it was like it's meant to be served like hot or like kind of like hot sake, like in the winter months. And I got put onto that like recently. Like, it's really good, especially when it goes down. It feels really nice.
So, like, the most infamous, like, hot toddies are always one of the more infamous, like, whiskey drinks. You can always add Jameson or shit to tea, Irish coffee, but when I think hot, and one of the interesting things, and I know you're a wine guy, there's this wine near us that they make this Alpine Spice, which is specific to winter, and you are supposed to warm it up, and it's a very, like, I guess it's like cinnamon, vanilla. I guess it's a white wine, but like I said, it's a spicier wine, and yeah, you're supposed to warm that up. I like it, and that's the thing is, as long as it's not too high in alcohol, because high alcohol content already kind of warms you up as it goes down.
Yeah,
you don't
true.
want that shit too hot. But if you if you have too much hot sauce, you put it in a little bit of soup, it spices it up. But you don't want to add too much shit on top. Obviously, yeah, you don't do that shit with much beer. But I will say, as a now very seasoned beer drinker, I recommend all the time 2 things I think people don't do enough. Pour your beer in a glass. If you're trying it for the first time, especially, and you want to experience it, pour it in a glass and allow most beers to get to room temperature, except for most lagers,
There's
which
a
you
charm
should have
to it.
cold. Yeah, because a lot of the flavors will all of a sudden, they will adapt better once it gets to room temperature. If it's too cold, they can't release all the aromatics and all that shit. So yeah, let beer get a little bit more room temp, and like I said, that doesn't apply to light lagers and shit. That you need cold. So, but yeah, no, I'm just like you, big drinker of everything.
He's going for everything.
Yeah. But no, Jake James, we want to first say thank you so much for coming on. And once again, as he mentioned, all the links are below. Please be sure, give some love, give him a follow, hit subscribe on his channels. And with us, same deal. If I'm going to echo what Jim already said, if you're listening to us on iTunes, give us a 5-star review. No matter what you write, even if you blast us, we're going to read it. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, hit that subscribe. It would really help us. And with that, we want to say have a great holidays, everyone. Have a good night. And cheers.
Cheers. Cheers to Thanksgiving.
Cheers, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Jim, do your best turkey impersonation.
Oh, my God.
I just do the South Park one. That's what I
Cheers.
got.
Yeah, right? Oh, man.